Welcome to our moving up session where we're going to be thinking about moving up to high school and all the stuff that goes around that. Now before you can start, you're going to need to make sure you've got these things. You're going to need some paper, a pencil or pen, and you're going to need someone to talk to as you do this. Some of you may be in school, some of you may be at home, but you're definitely going to need to talk to people during this session. Now, we're all different in what we get nervous about. You might feel nervous about moving to secondary school, wondering what's going to happen, uncertain what your new school might be like and how you will get on. In this session, we hope to give you a chance to talk about the things that might be worrying you and to reassure you that although it's different, it's okay. And it's also okay if you're not worried about it. Some people are just excited about it. Now the first thing I need you to do is to draw an outline of a body. Try and make it fill your whole page, just like this picture I'm going to show you. So when you're in a new or exciting situation, it can have physical effects on your body. For example, when I started teaching, quite a long time ago now, I just couldn't eat any breakfast for about 2 years. I felt so nervous I couldn't eat. So on your picture, what I want you to do is to label some of the physical effects you feel in a new or exciting situation. So in the example that I'm going to show you in a moment, I've drawn butterflies in my tummy because that's how I felt. So have a look at my picture. You can draw a picture on it, you can write on it, or do a combination of both. So pause the video on my picture and start labeling yours. Then talk about them with whoever is near you. And there's 2 questions particularly to think about. Are those feelings normal? And is it okay to feel like this? So 2 important things. Of course, it's okay and it's normal to feel nervous. It's how your body is designed to work. We all face things that we're a little bit unsure about and worried about. Adults, including teachers and young people, all feel nervous, especially at the start of a new school year. And we've all faced big moves to new schools, new places, and we've all survived. For our chill line activity, you need to draw yourself a washing line. Now, if I was in school, I'd bring a real washing line and pegs with me. At one end of the line, I want you to draw a smiley face, that's all chilled out. And at the other end, I want you to draw a sad face. Have a look at my example. So the happy face means chilled out and the sad face is pretty stressed. I'm going to give you some things to think about that might cause some people to worry about when they start at secondary school. You need to put each of those things on the line in the position that best represents how you feel about it at the moment. The more chilled you are about it, the nearer the happy face you write it, and vice versa. If you're really worried, put it up near the stress face, and if you're not really bothered either way, pop it in the middle. So pause the video on the next picture where you'll find the list of things to place on your line. So here are some young people that have been at secondary school, and this is what they've got to say about some of those issues that we've just put on your chill line.
From personal experience, I didn't get lost because you're quite like in a group together, in your like tutor group, and the place isn't very big, and you go mostly with everybody else that you know.
No, I never found myself lost at high school, but I have known others that have found themselves lost. However, they were perfectly fine because there are many teachers walking around to help you, and all of the doors and classrooms are signposted so you can easily find your way around. In most schools, you get a planner which will tell you which room each lesson's in. So you can find your room, and if you can't get to it, there's teachers, students that will help out, help you get there.
Well, I never got lost, but for people who do, the things that you should do, so you can always check your timetable, because usually it has the room number or what the room is called, so then you can go and find it. Or you can ask the teacher at the place that you went to, or an adult there, or another student, so that they can tell you where you're meant to be.
I sometimes got lost, but there was always somebody to tell me where to go.
I did get lost at the start of secondary school, but you can ask your friends if you came up with primary school friends, but if, like me, you didn't, then you can always go to someone at the office and they will tell you where you're going, or you can just follow some people that you vaguely recognise that's in your tutor group or something.
Love the bus. Bus is one of my favourite bits of getting school, because I got to sit with my friends every day on the bus, either sleep or you get to talk.
It's a new thing, but you can sit with your friends and it's easy to get used to.
They're quite good. Usually, if you're late or something, in year 7 on your first few days, the teachers are quite understanding, but try not to be late afterwards. I'd say the bus is a good way to get to school, because I made several of my friends that I have now on the bus. Although one thing I'd say is, if you've got a lot of bags on that day, you need to make sure you know you're carrying them in a good way, because sometimes it's hard to get through the aisles. But other than that, I think it's good.
I just go walk up. I'm not very far away from my school, so I don't have a really far walk, but you mostly find friends, and there will be people in your area that walk to school also, and you'll find people to walk to school with. So you get to know most of your teachers when you go up, and you get lots of different teachers, but they're all really nice most of the time.
It is better and it is easier because they can help you out more, because it's their specific subject. So say you get stuck in a subject, then you'll know where to go and which teacher to find, and it's better. And also, if the year sixes are worried about remembering teachers' names, for me and most people, it isn't that much of an issue, because most teachers don't mind being called just Miss or Sir. But it would also help to remember their names if you ever want to send them an email.
There's lots of different people teaching, and they're quite enthusiastic about the subjects that they're teaching usually. So if you like maths or science, you're gonna like the teacher.
At first, it is hard remembering all of the teachers' names, because you have at least 14 different names to remember. But at the start, you can just call them Sir or Miss, and you can, as you go on, you learn their names. I personally loved having lots of different teachers, because they were specific for the subjects, whereas at primary school we only had around 1 or 2 teachers for all the subjects we did. But when you go to your high school, the teachers are a lot more specific to that subject.
I had friends before I started in year 7, but I did end up making a lot of new ones in the first few weeks.
I was actually really lucky, because in my tutor I had 2 friends from my old primary school, 2 friends from my newer primary school, and 2 friends from a club I went to. So I got lucky there. And it's so easy to make friends, since there's so many kids at high school. And if you're afraid to make friends, just go and ask, because there are other kids that will be struggling too with making friends, and just asking them will probably make them a lot happier as well.
Well, for me, because I had my primary school friends, I stuck with them for a little bit of time, almost to help me fit in before I then made friends. But afterwards, it was easy to make friends in lessons and on the bus and clubs and stuff like that.
But if, like me, you didn't know anyone, then I would say it is quite easy to make friends being your tutor. As I made my first few friends just in my tutor group, really.
If the year sixes are a bit worried about making friends, what would you say to them?
I'd say just be yourself and say hi to people that you wouldn't normally say hi to, just so that you can start a conversation. Maybe say good morning to anyone in your tutor, and it will become a habit, and you'll end up talking more as friends.
I'd say it just sort of happens naturally. You just sort of find yourself talking to someone that you like, and you just get on, and that's it.
I found friends in my tutor group too, and I also had a few friends, but I didn't have loads because a lot of them went to other schools. But I did make a lot of new friends, and you'll make friends with most of your tutor room. Not many people get detentions. Most of the teachers are quite nice as you're in year 7 and you're quite new, so you don't really know how it works. So with like homework, if you get like a late homework, they don't really mind because they know that you don't really know like what's going on and stuff.
I haven't had a detention myself, but there is the odd detention. But usually you're given warnings before you get detention. Advice I have for that is always do your homework on time before the day, and be polite to your teachers.
It's nothing to worry about because most of the time, if you've just forgotten a homework or something, it's just sitting in a room for a few minutes of your lunchtime or break time.
It's generally your classroom, not just a spare room that they keep for detention.
With a teacher, just catching up on some work that you might have missed or something like that. Because I haven't had a detention, but Charlotte has, and it really isn't nothing. It's nothing to worry about. You forget about it within the next day, and it doesn't affect how a teacher sees you in any way or your grades, really, unless you do lots of bad things.
If year sixes were worried about getting detentions or getting told off, how would you reassure them?
It's like it's nothing you should be scared of. It's just like I don't even see it as like a telling off. It's more of like a sort of work that you have to finish. But if you do happen to get told off, then you're just sort of doing the wrong thing.
You can always apologise to the teacher, and I'm sure they will forgive you, or just try your best not to get in trouble and get all the work done on time, is what I'd say.
As long as you are polite in your lessons and aren't disruptive to other kids, you have nothing to worry about with detentions. Detentions are normally only given if you haven't handed your homework in after the deadline, or if you're being rude. And warnings normally given before detention, so not many are given out.
I don't know any year 7 that's been badly told off, and it's a hard thing to do, so if you stick to what the teachers say, everything should be fine. There's homework and there's often a lot of it, but it's never too much to keep a hold of as long as you do it how the teacher asked it to be done.
In year 7, obviously it's a step up from year 6, so you are given a bit more homework than you usually would have. I'd just say as long as you get it done when it's set rather than the night before it's due in, you'll be fine.
What happens if you get stuck on your homework?
Well, you usually get a piece of work for almost every lesson, either each week or every other week. It does seem like a lot at first, but you work out a routine and you get used to the amount of work. If you get stuck,
you can email your teacher,
or
you can go up to them and ask for help before the due date.
But one thing I'd say is don't ask the teacher or tell the teacher that you're stuck on the day that it's due, because that usually doesn't impress the teacher. They'd like you to come before so that they can.
That bit doesn't go well.
Yeah, so that they can help you through the homework so that you can get it done instead of waiting until everyone else has done it and you haven't done it.
If you're stuck on homework, you can either email your teachers or go and see them personally. They will always help you with homework.
Well, teachers' emails are always open and you can email them for help. You can also ask other classmates, like you can message them, talk to them. Most teachers will be quite like helpful. You can go to like lunch and break and go ask them.
Watch the first part of this story about Joseph, taken from the Old Testament. Pause the video and talk about the changes and challenges he had to face.
God's story, Joseph. So part of God's story is about a guy named Joseph, and it begins like this. Once there was a guy named Joseph who had 10 older brothers and one younger one. When Joe was a boy, he was his dad's favorite. In fact, his dad liked him so much better than his brothers that he gave Joe a special gift to prove it. You can imagine this made his brothers jealous. And Joe only made things worse. He told his brothers about dreams he had where he was ruling over them. Well, this made Joe's brothers furious. One day they were working and saw Joe coming. They said, "Here comes that dreamer." They threw Joe into a dark pit. They might have left him there forever, but they met some men traveling from Egypt and sold Joe to them as a servant instead. They thought that was slightly nicer than leaving him in a pit. Then they went home and told their father Joe had been killed by a wild animal. This broke their dad's heart. Kids, these brothers were really bad news. Selling a sibling is never a good idea. Ever.
I guess the biggest change for Joseph was ending up in a new place, in Egypt. He had to face life in a new language, with no freedom and no family. Sounds quite scary and really challenging. Imagine not having the people you love around you, feeling scared and alone. He must have faced a lot of choices too. Did he give up hope? Did he still trust in God? Did he get bitter and angry towards his brothers or towards the people holding him captive? Let's see how the story turns out for him. At the end, we'll pause again and think about the good choices he made.
But the Bible says the Lord was with Joe. When Joe was a servant, he worked for a really important rich guy named Potiphar. And Potiphar liked Joe so much, he put him in charge of the whole house. Joe was happy until one day he was blamed for something he didn't do, and Potiphar sent him straight to jail. Well, God was still with Joe, even in prison. The guard decided he liked Joe so much, he put him in charge of all the other prisoners. Then God gave Joe special knowledge about dreams. When two prisoners had dreams, Joe knew what they meant, so he told them. 2 years later, Egypt's ruler called Pharaoh had a dream, and nobody knew what it meant. But by now, one of the two prisoners Joe had helped was out of jail and working for Pharaoh. He told Pharaoh about Joe, and God helped Joe figure out what Pharaoh's dream meant. But Pharaoh's dream was really more of a nightmare. It meant that everybody in Egypt would have food for 7 years, then be hungry for 7 years. Joe told Pharaoh the only way to survive was to store food during the 7 good years. Well, Pharaoh thought Joe's idea was brilliant. He put him in charge. During the 7 hungry years, nobody could eat without getting food from Joe. He was like a human vending machine. Well, remember how Joe had 11 brothers? Like everybody else, they had to get food from Joe. And when they came, they didn't even recognize their brother. But Joe knew who they were. He secretly tested them to see if they changed. After all, they did throw him in a pit and sell him. Finally, he couldn't hide who he was from his brothers anymore. He told everyone to leave the room because he was about to cry. After sobbing for a few minutes, he told them, "I'm your brother Joseph. I'm the one you sold." The brothers couldn't believe it. They had hurt Joe, but God had taken care of him during the good times and the bad. Even with everything they had done to Joe, he forgave them because he was willing to follow God, even when it was hard. Joe told them, "You planned to harm me, but God planned it for good." And God used Joe to save many lives, including the family that was part of God's special rescue plan. And that's the story of Joseph.
Did you spot the good choices he made? He helped Egypt survive a famine by listening to God, who helped him interpret these dreams. Even more amazing was that he chose to forgive his brothers. So, what changes, challenges and choices are you facing when September arrives and when you start at your new school? Pause the video and chat about this. We've got some tips for survival now from some of these young people that have already been ahead of you and been to secondary school.
Loads.
Yeah, there's pretty much a club for almost every subject. I joined netball in year 7 because I was in the netball team in primary school, and it's a lot of fun. You make lots of friends, and it's good at building teamworks and stuff like that.
And you can find people with similar interests to you through clubs, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Clubs are a really great way to meet new friends and find something you really enjoy. Instead of school being about just working all the time, if you find a club that you really enjoy, it can be a release from that.
There's loads of different clubs. There's like cooking club, Python club, like computer clubs, homework club, and you meet loads of different people there that like loads of different things, and there'll probably be a club that you're interested in, and you'll find people that you're interested in, and you'll make friends through there.
Lots of clubs. The teacher who runs it is doing it to be nice, so they will always end up being a very fun experience.
I know lots of people that do have a watch. Usually it's fairly easy to get to your class on time because everyone's going to their class at the same time. So you can see everyone walking around, basically finding their lessons. So it's a personal preference. If you want to make sure you're there on time, a watch is great.
The best thing to do is to get a watch. I mean, there are some clocks in the classroom, but they're quite often wrong. So the best thing to do is have a watch, really.
And
in my
also,
opinion.
if you forget to check your watch, or you're not wearing a watch and you forget to check the time, and you feel like you don't have enough time to get to a place, usually it doesn't matter that much. Lots of teachers understand when you're in year 7, but also I found that even though, say if you're in one side of the school and the place activity is at the other side of the school, it's usually a lot quicker to get there than you think.
Watch is helpful because you can see when break ends and lunch ends. Also, it's helpful to know when the lesson's about to end and how long you have to get between lessons. But it's never usually an issue because there's quite a long time between lessons that you can get to places.
We do have planners in our school to write down timetables and just things that you want to remind yourself to do. But generally, homework in that is set online, and you don't have to worry about writing it down because it's all there online already.
Or
you can get like apps on your phone and things for whatever your school uses or advises for you to use.
Or for some people, so I usually, if I have a planner, even though it's online, I use it quite a lot too. I just make a note of what subjects have set work for which day, just to remind myself to check class charts so that I know which subjects I need to expect, so that I can prepare the amount of time I need to do it.
I kept my planner up to date every day, and I written all my homework whenever it was set, the date it was set and the date it was due, just to make sure that I managed to hand in my homework on time every time I had some set. It's good to have like a routine when you do your homework so that you're not just doing it last minute. So if you get home from school and then do it for like an hour to 2 hours, then have some time for yourself so you're not all just constantly work. That worked really well for me.
I organise my timetable by having it written down and in my pocket so I can remember my lesson when I'm here to go to the next one, and make sure my homework's done by writing it down in a planner or some similar thing.
Most helpful adults are like your tutor, head of year, because they give you the most information and you can always talk to them. You can also talk to any teacher as well about specific issues or homework or anything.
Mainly your head of year and your tutor for me was the most helpful, to be honest.
I also found, for me, I think the actual lesson teachers are the most helpful, because if you're struggling with something in a lesson, whether it's someone in a lesson or where you've been sat, you are not comfortable next to a certain person, or it's the work, I just think that the personal teachers for each lesson is better for me. But obviously there is your tutor as well as your head of year too.
I'd say the most helpful adults in school are teachers, because they will help you with any work whenever you need it. Form tutors will help you with any questions you have about your subjects, personal issues. Head of years are also good when there's larger problems that you have. You can tell most of the adults at school about anything because they will all listen. If you're a child who is very good at losing things, I would suggest labels. I myself have lost many PE shirts and skirts because I've not had labels in mine. So yeah, labels are very useful when it comes to all your clothes for like PE, bags, blazers. And I wouldn't say for like pencil cases and things, because you normally keep them with you, but anything that may be laying around that other people might think is theirs, I definitely would label.
Name labels can be useful if you're doing PE, so you make sure you bring your own clothes back instead of some random person.
How do you look after like your personal belongings, your bag, and all that kind of stuff in your books?
And you always have your bag on you, or it's under your table in a lesson, or you can leave it in your tutor room at lunch.
With bags and stuff, you remember where you left it, so you can go and pick it up. There's usually bag racks, or you can leave it in your lesson. For school uniform, when getting changed for lessons like PE, usually you have your own pegs. It wouldn't hurt to put a name label on like a tie, because usually they get lost the most, but I would say name labels aren't as big of a deal as some people think.
You can use them on the buses and in the bus park, but you can't have them during school and in school hours. If you need to phone like your parents or something, then you'd have to go to the office where you can do that, because phones aren't allowed on the school site otherwise.
Unless you are waiting in a library for like a parent, or you've had an after school club and you're waiting for someone to pick you up, the library after school is one of the only places you can use your phone, so that you don't get bored or things like that.
And also in classrooms, you can only get your phone out if the teacher says you can.
But aren't allowed to have them on during the day. But some teachers might allow it to do research or other things.
Yeah, most teachers like sometimes let you use your phone for like schoolwork and like research, but most times they just stay in your bag or blazer often, or on silent, so they don't make a noise and aren't a distraction.
Mobile phones aren't usually allowed out until the later years of high school. I wasn't allowed to have my phone out until around year 10, 11 when it came to GCSEs, because they're usually used for like revision and listening to music, but we are not actually allowed them out when around school because they can get lost, broken, and they distract people. So
in the bus park, generally headphones are off limits. Teachers don't let you wear them at all unless you're sitting on the bus or just waiting around.
Also, if you're worried about finding which bus you get on, usually they have numbers, and the bus drivers put like a picture of their number on the window, or you can always ask the teacher which bus is where, because usually they keep track of it. Also, you sometimes get used to the bus you have or the bus driver if your bus always stays the same, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Just try to be yourself and try to make as many friends, talk to as many people, join some clubs, ask for help when you need help. Don't just like sit there. I think it's really important to ask about stuff that you're stuck on and stuff. So.
So the reality is a lot of you will feel a little bit nervous. and that's okay. It's part of life that all of us feel. And if you're not worried, that's okay too. We're all made different, we're all unique. Most importantly, look forward to it. And it's an exciting time. Thousands of others are experiencing it at the same time as you. Make the best of it that you can. You're going to face a lot of changes and a lot of challenges. The thing that you can control, and the most important thing you can do, is to make good choices. Good luck.